are in the lot of people who are of today's bulk industry who don't need to know computer science. What we need is a mechanism of cherry picking those who do, and I think our perspective is that the ideal opportunity is MOOCs. And the guys from whatever institute who do the right MOOCs and do well in them, okay, so a small number of them may cheat, doesn't matter. But it's a good statistical pitch to say if they are the guys you can cherry pick. It doesn't matter if they come from X institute or Y institute. But if they've done those, you can cherry pick and so all the students are going to do this, and they are doing it. 20% of the MOOC students are from India.
I would like to add another perspective, which is like I graduated from ComSci background about 17, 18 years back. I still remember I have the subjects: operation research, database management system, artificial intelligence, operating systems, data structures. These are the things which you require. But I was not aware at that time what I'll do with these. Just theoretically understanding without setting the context between that how this is going to be used in the building. But all, believe me, all are these being used when I actually started working on them. Then I was reading my books back to understand the stuff. But in college, I was disconnected.
I think you studied those things properly. That's the problem is the rest 80% in India don't study those
The
things.
problem is that the industry in the past 10 years has only been using the prior programming skill. And therefore, people like yourselves, the youngsters now, are saying, why am I learning all this computer architecture, operating system, I never use it. But the point is, if you don't understand it, you're not a computer scientist.
Your imagination is missing.
You are a typist.
Yeah, just think about it. If you had to write a MapReduce job and you didn't understand distributed computing, how are you going to write a MapReduce job? You might use a Hive and have Hive do the MapReduce, but if you really wanted to get to drive some complex, or you want to write a complex logic for solving the real problem, you would have to write stuff like that in Python or Java, write a MapReduce job. And if you don't understand distributed computing and how data is indexed and what tasks you can make parallel, going back to the point of understanding the fundamentals of parallel computing, which we learn, all of us, as far as that. Then you're faking it, and you're using the higher level tools, and say, all right, now let them manage the headache. I'll write my queries at a higher level. But then you're not going to be successful. You might, when in the early stage of adoption, it's easy to fake to people about stuff. But once it starts to get relatively more mature, you're going to get caught out. So I think depth is very critical here. Foundational depth, yes, but also, don't hop jobs every 1 year just because somebody's paying you for the tagline of data scientist, another 20%. Because you might get ahead of the curve, but eventually you get caught out. You'll be low skilled and highly paid.
That was my next question. Are you facing a challenge of retaining talent because the requirement is so intense that the chances of you poaching on each other's employees are very high?
Any hot scale will always have a talent.
So, if I can understand again from a business, a slightly macro level, so how big is the play in India, and is it largely a technology play for most companies, or it's like a complete solution play where somebody comes to you with a requirement that we have all this data, we don't know what to do, and you kind of give them a solution as well, and not just the technology part of the solution?
No, we don't look at it that way. We look at it as a digital transformation.
Okay.
So, large deals which are digital transformations of industry, entire organization is digital transformed, will go down into huge, many sub-projects, various different components to it, some not anything to do with big data at all. But that's where it starts. So, for us at least, that's where it starts. I mean, of course, there are many layers of the playing field, and I'm sure many people are providing skills and whatever augmentation, etc. That's where we're looking at from. The other point that I wanted to make is that today we are seeing big data, right? So just going back to before the question, as an analytics and digitization, but that technology is moving so fast that what today is considered a complete workhorse, right? The traditional transactional system, that's also going to change in this 5 years. Memory, it's just huge. I mean, everything is in memory. I know of course the start of it, but now suddenly all those are going to get changed. So it's not just that only for analytics and data science you need the computer science. You'll need them even in the traditional stuff, because next 10 years, there's a huge revolution in traditional technologies. The people resisting it are the established software vendors.
Or they're
They
quiet.
Yeah,
Or they're
or they're
quiet.
quiet. But there is a huge resistance there. But because it's never inevitable. That's going to change, right?
Like Teradata acquired Astrodata, you've got these acquired.
The other thing that I want to mention is the really from the India perspective, not from the Indian jobs for the world perspective. There are three areas where we are doing some work, but we're not doing enough, where the potential for transforming societal applications is huge. And clearly the first one is clearly education. Right? I mean, we're just not doing enough. I'm trying to do some stuff with NPTEL, MOOCs, and we're trying to do that. We just have to do it. We have to make education widely scaled. We can't rely on the MOOCs of the Western world forever. I mean, there's the literature in India. We just can't have. It's not just all about technology. So education can be transformed. Education in all fields, at all levels, and we're just not working hard enough there. It is a big data problem. Think about the JEE exam normalization. It's a big data problem. It's a statistical problem. A nightmare that came in the press. You didn't normalize properly. A stupid mistake, but statistically a disaster, right? What you did, and benchmarking, all that. And you did. Second is health. I mean, this diagnostic system that you talked about is absolutely impossible unless you have data on local population. We just don't have it. Yeah, but today we can have it. We can legislate. We are not doing enough. The bill is pending, of course. I think the ex-IT minister mentioned this. The bill is pending, of course, doesn't get passed for various reasons, right? In the parliament. But anyway, the third is agriculture. I mean, we've been doing some stuff in that in terms of how weather and crops and pests and stuff, and everything is how large. We're not doing enough in India for India.
Another big segment that you missed out here is the government sector. If you look at just the land, real estate, planning perspective, everything that you need is lying in a file in some municipal office somewhere. But getting that data out is
land use.
Land use.
Land use, encroachment, and the gross level, using automated machine learning systems, we can do this just using Google Maps.
Absolutely.
Right, we can do this. We know this is forest land has been encroached, not encroached. I can give you a heat map of where all the encroachments are. So the question there is who wants to do it?
Yeah.
The building.
Right.
No, even property taxes, building construction. There is so much.
We're not doing enough in India for India.
Sorry,
No, so government is a very important part of it. Coming to big data, a point I'd like to mention, very few people know that Aadhaar works on Hadoop.
Yeah.
So I mean, we are doing some of the large stuff is being done on the big data systems, but much more needs to be done.
No, the point I was, so to answer some of the things, so for example, I think skills in technology and things which we are talking about in India, I still feel that it's primarily driven by West. Not that India doesn't have scope. The reality of the problem is somebody's got to pay for it, and somebody has to go and pay for it to be very profitable, and I have to make choices between I've got this best engineer working on this, which is more important, and I think some of these skills, the more and more with the in fact, I don't know where it was. I think it was when I was actually in Boston with one of the professors, and he mentioned that the whole education system is going to become flat. It's not going to have any national boundaries. In fact, he said it, and there's another HBS professor who said world's not flat, and this has been going on. But more and more, I think education and skills and learning and the challenge which you have here is the same challenge in New York, is the same challenge in Boston, is the same challenge in Silicon Valley at different levels. If you ask the recruiting company in Boston right now, you're not going to get a different answer. It's going to be exactly the same answer. And the way a lot of us are solving these problems are by going and looking at things which is, okay, there is this talent available, there's somebody saying big data, but he's got 3 years of experience versus this guy who I have in Boston, he's got 50 patents. So I would actually pick that and put it to a large account and say, okay, let's try to solve those problems. But this problem is universal. There is no, I have to recruit people globally. It's no different conversation. Second, I think the point which you asked was, what are the customers asking? I don't think customers are ever asking, solve this by big data.
No, as if we have all this data, so help us say improve by 1% or 2%.
Actually, they don't even, sometimes they say that, I feel, Facebook is doing that. So Twitter is asking, how can I actually monetize? Can you guys help me in trying to figure, or I'm talking about the largely the guys who are talking about social big data, mobility, the newer side. There are the old enterprise, which is, get my document system and send my invoices as fast as, I'm not talking about those guys, but the people who are talking about these really are coming and saying, help me in solving something which can help me beat the competition. And there are two types of people who solve this problem. There are one who sell licenses, which is where I think people like us come in. We don't provide services, we sell license, and we bundle services along with license. And there are people who solve this problem with services, the services organizations. And I think both of them have a very strong business model. And I think the skill problem remains similar in both of these areas. And I don't think there is any recipe for retaining good people in either one of these organizations. I think whoever has those skills, and really those skills, I mean not the tag on his resume, he makes that decision. Somebody says, I really want to work on the license side and I'll create IP and sell this IP again and again to customers. Somebody says, I want to create solutions and I'll keep talking to customers, every time a different customer, and he makes a decision of being in services, and they make choices, which one is better for them.
So what is the career path that you show data scientist? Essentially, we're talking data scientists, right? When we're talking big data today? Not necessarily.
It doesn't matter actually. Data scientist is just one of the threads of the bigger.
So in the entire digitization domain, what is the career path for somebody who's looking at it, who's been working, or who's looking at it as a career of choice? What is that career path that you're showing him? It is a very rapidly evolving.
Today, the career path at the mid-level for us is at the level of a head of an industry vertical, right? So that's the CEO. Now, to get there, you have to play many roles, right? And one of the roles is, being a client partner, dealing with all the solutions with client. And there's a lot of administrative work for that kind of a role also, but there's also understanding potential to do something for that kind of a business. And that is a digitization problem. It's not a big data problem, it's not a mobility problem, it's not a Java problem, it's not a Hadoop problem. It is a digitization problem. So it really is to become a thought leader and a consultant for, that's the career path. And that is why it's a hot skill, because it's a route to that broad consulting guru role that you can play within whatever organizational structure that you have.
And how does this evolve in the next, say, 2 to 5 years?
That will always be the most coveted role, where you actually are thinking for your customer, thinking for a solution. It just happens to be that 3-4 years ago, cloud was the way to get there, and maybe something else before that, like okay, maybe 10 years ago, and because that was the main problem everybody's facing. Next 10 years, digitalization.
So one good example was this meta scale that I talked about. So what you asked earlier, like, are they saying implement big data? The problem they had was, and that they use big data to kind of solve the Hadoop infrastructure pricing engine built on Hadoop. And what they did, the problem was, they said, we've got 3,000 stores in the US, huge petabytes of data coming in, and it's what is selling, what price points, what are competitors doing, what's their price points, and then they have a pricing engine that tries to optimize. They used to take 1 month to roll out changes in SKUs to pricing. So they had the problem of being able to collect the data, analyze it on the mainframe, get the results out, then distribute the results to the store, and then eventually it hits the store shelf. It's actually the price tag is put on there. So supposedly with what they've done, what Metascale has done, it's a very powerful company, and it's a great implementation of enterprise big data technology to solve real problems, right? And they went through hell before they did, but they did. So they supposedly have taken that one cycle down to like now 4 days. So they can process in 2 days pricing algorithm, they're able to collect the data a lot more efficient. They're able to cleanse it, process it, optimize your price efficiently, and then also get it back out to the stores to implement also efficiently. So something that took them a month is now down to under a week, and that for them is a huge competitive advantage, because Amazon changes their price for something that sells in a Sears store. They're able to make changes much more rapidly and respond to changing patterns of behavior. And for them, they see that as a huge sustainer. So that's how problems are being framed. They're not being framed that use Hadoop to solve the problem. Say, well, how do I make this quicker? And then you say, okay, let me put a system together that does it. They still do a bunch of stuff on mainframe. There's certain elements they've taken out, and they told IBM to take back their hardware, and then they've implemented the Hadoop system.
It's a will. You need to have the will to do something.
It's tough, and it was tough.
Make a change. If you want to lose files, you can always lose them. Right? I mean, in this day and age, losing data is nothing to eat, right? But we do that.
I think the other thing about that, sorry, okay, go ahead.
So I've seen the three ways customers are approaching. One is of course what Gautam mentioned, like digitization. It's part of a big project where this one component also requires that part, and we have done that. There is another, especially in Bay Area, what I've seen is that people are doing a lot of research on this area, and they are coming up with specific technologies and want us to tell us which will perform better. Like what we did recently was for one of the partners, we did a project kind of benchmarking project for them, that if we use these technologies on the big data side,